This episode is sponsored by Alcor. Global hiring for engineering teams can be a nightmare. Too many providers, hidden fees, slow support, and local rules that don't make sense. Alcor is a different kind of EOR partner. They're built for tech companies scaling across borders with deep expertise in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Alcor combines employer of record services with tech recruiting, helping you choose the right country, find and assess engineers, and onboard them in days, not months. Nearly 85% of what you pay goes straight to your engineers. Alcor's fee decreases as your team grows, and you can always bring the team in-house with zero exit fee. That's why Silicon Valley startups, including 5 unicorns, work with Alcor. Learn more at alcor.com/podcast or tap the link in the show notes. This episode is sponsored by EquityBee. Stock options can be valuable, but exercising them often means taking on real financial risk, putting tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket with uncertainty around the outcome makes exercising a difficult decision for many startup employees. And that's where EquityBee comes in. EquityBee helps you exercise your options without using your own capital. No out-of-pocket costs. They provide non-recourse funding to cover exercise costs and taxes. There's no repayment unless the company has an exit. With EquityBee, you don't leave your equity behind. Go to codestory.co/EquityBee to learn more. See terms and conditions in the sponsors section of the episode page. That's codestory.co/EquityBee.
We live in the age of MVPs. There's not just one MVP. I think we really take the mindset of stack a lot of small wins and move really fast. So if you go all the way back to the first drone, I would invite these 3PLs to this warehouse in Evanston that I was renting in the middle of winter in Chicago, and I couldn't afford to heat it because it was 10,000 square feet. That was an MVP. Then the first time we actually had to go from not just deploying one sensor on a forklift to 34 sensors on a forklift and actually make the system work every single day to detect safety incidents. That was an MVP. My name is Marc Gyöngyösi, and I'm the CEO and founder of OneTrack.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took
you.
it off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it. It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labpart, and today how Marc Gyöngyösi has built AI for effortless operations, connecting the physical world to digital intelligence. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. AI code generation is moving fast, but quality and confidence, well, they haven't kept pace. The core problem is shared context. Unblocked was built to solve this specific problem. The code review platform is built on the same context senior engineers rely on when reviewing code. The result is fewer comments, higher signal, and reviews teams actually trust. Get a free 3-week trial at getunblocked.com/codestory. That's getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mezmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does. Settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain for your startup today. Marc Gyöngyösi has had a lifelong passion for building and technology, shaped early on by time spent crafting wooden projects and tinkering with remote-controlled vehicles, all before progressing to constructing a full 737 flight simulator cockpit. His interests have consistently centered on blending the physical and digital worlds, from open-source flight simulator development to modern explorations in AI, which now occupies most of his free time. But outside of tech, he enjoys running, skiing, golf, and staying active. And although he spent time flying, he stepped back from it due to time constraints. He's especially fond of a well-made Austrian Wiener Schnitzel, an elusive treasure in the US, but one he happily tracks down whenever possible. In 2017, Marc launched his company, Intelligent Flying Machines, which was a college project focused on building autonomous drones for warehouses. After dealing with crashes and 12 stitches from said crashes, Marc shifted his focus from flying robots to a broader computer vision platform capturing real-world data. This is the creation story of OneTrack.
I started this company back in 2017, and it started very different than what we do today. So technically, on paper, this company is called Intelligent Flying Machines, because back when I was in college, I started working on flying robots to automate cycle counting and inventory checks and things like that in warehouses. So I was literally building drones from scratch myself, writing all the code. And I started working on that because when I was at BMW Group out of Munich, I was working on robots, and the robots were supposed to help manufacturing. But they kept misplacing stuff in the warehouse, and I was literally running around with binoculars trying to find pallets in a rack while we were optimizing for sub-second accuracy of a robot on the production line. Why did we do this? And it turns out there's a lot of those kinds of things that happen in warehouses. They're like, why are we doing it this way? It's because we've always been doing it this way. Inventory errors and accuracies were certainly an interesting place to start. Got a lot of traction, found myself on stage at TechCrunch Disrupt in their finals. And if you actually look up the video, you'll see me stand in front of everyone and the drone crashing and breaking into 1,000 pieces. They did not know I was still in college at that time. And I don't know if they would have let me on stage if they actually knew. While that happened, also got a number of early pilot customers, people who were paying me to fly out to their factory, fly the drone around and show them what I could do, until I ultimately ended up with 12 stitches on this hand from one of these drone runs, because it turns out it's a really bad idea to put spinning blades next to people. That was definitely a waking up kind of moment where really cool technology, right? Like, how do you make a drone fly autonomously in the warehouse? It's really complex. Especially back then, like, you didn't have the Skydios of the world that had all this complex onboard autonomy. So I spent a lot of time in the computer vision space, machine learning, control. How do you make this thing fly and understand where it is? And more importantly, even what's around it, right? Like, just flying is only part of the equation. You need to understand, I'm looking at a box. I'm trying to find a label. I'm trying to figure out what's on this box or in this box, all these things. So I spent obviously a ton of time flying these drones in warehouses, until I realized this is only a very small part of the problem. The bigger problem for the kinds of companies that really dominate the world of logistics is you're running on software from the 90s or early 2000s. Like, I would walk in, I had never before in my life seen a green screen. At least not like something I would have expected a business to use. But turns out even today, we go to customers and a $30 billion multinational corporation is running their business on an AS400 system on servers. So there's a lot of mystery in this world of warehousing and logistics. And with OneTrack today, what we really tried to do is we started by capturing data about what actually happens on the floor, in factories, in warehouses using cameras. So that the core technology from the drones of perception applying that to a more general purpose computer vision system. And then from there, we capture a lot of signals about people, process, product, customers, identify exceptions, drive coaching, drive accountability to where we find ourselves today. The last 12 months have been really exciting because we actually have the data you need to automate the physical world with agents, right? When you think about agentic AI today, you can't really automate warehouse operations if you're running on data in a green screen system that is only partially accurate. So we bring in the systems that capture data about the physical world, physical data from sensors, what is actually happening, not what are people entering into systems. And then we layer on top of that our whole agentic platform that can automate a lot of the work that people would usually spend hours, days, weeks, months, if not years trying to figure out. And now we can do it like that at a fraction of the cost. So that's where we are today. From flying drones in warehouses, crashing on stage at TechCrunch, to now helping some of the largest corporations in the world run their factories and warehouses as efficiently and safely as possible and really be ready for the age of AI.
Let's dive into what you would consider the MVP. And maybe it's the cameras, maybe it's that portion of the story, or maybe it's around that time. You decide, but what you would call the MVP for OneTrack. Tell me about how long it took you to build, and what sort of tools you're using to bring it to life.
Honestly, Noah, we live in the age of MVPs. There's not just one MVP. I think we really take the mindset of stack a lot of small wins and move really fast. So we always have the approach of we build a lot of things really quickly and bring them to our customers. There are many different MVPs as you look at the journey of OneTrack. Like if you go all the way back to the first drone, I would invite these 3PLs to this warehouse in Evanston that I was renting in the middle of the winter in Chicago, and I couldn't afford to heat it because it was 10,000 square feet. And they had to wear their parkas, and I could show them a drone flying on its own down an aisle. That was an MVP. Then the first time we actually had to go from not just deploying one sensor on a forklift to 34 sensors on a forklift and actually make the system work every single day to detect safety incidents, that was an MVP. The dashboard, the application that users had to log into. And it's just fascinating to see. I love to build, and my team loves to build. And I love to be in a place where we can move really fast to build a lot of things. It's fascinating to see the acceleration we've seen, especially over the last 12 months. Not saying, vibe code AI slop, go from some basic prompt to some simple code application. But if you built the systems on the back end in a way that you can quickly iterate on the front end and on the application layer to the customer, you can move so fast today. You can have an MVP every single day. There's nothing that would hold you back from doing that. Then it's more about the intelligence side of programming. How do you architect a system, and then how do you spend time with the customer to get it in their hands? Our first agents this year, the MVP for that was literally a little chat box that showed up next to a safety event that would give you context about that employee. And then turns out that people want to talk about more than just that one employee. So you need to find a different way to do that. And you start building more code and writing more skeletons around the agents to be able to architect, to run the whole thing and orchestrate the agents and give them the understanding they need. And before you know it, you build a new product, which is now something that we're bringing to customers as a full separate product. It's just, you have to keep moving fast, especially in this day and age.
Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains. And this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive.com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. This episode is sponsored by Alcor. Global hiring for engineering teams can be a nightmare. Too many providers, hidden fees, slow support, and local rules that don't make sense. Alcor is a different kind of EOR partner. They're built for tech companies scaling across borders with deep expertise in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Alcor combines employer of record services with tech recruiting, helping you choose the right country, find and assess engineers, and onboard them in days, not months. Nearly 85% of what you pay goes straight to your engineers. Alcor's fee decreases as your team grows, and you can always bring the team in-house with zero exit fee. That's why Silicon Valley startups, including 5 unicorns, work with Alcor. Learn more at alcor.com/podcast or tap the link in the show notes. I'm curious then, how did you go about building what you might call a roadmap, right? Or maybe how do you decide what those next MVPs or experiments or things are to build? And, what sort of criteria are you using to decide, okay, this is the next most important thing to create?
I think if you sit down and you try to draw out a 12, 24, 36-month roadmap, you're doing yourself and your customers a disservice, because the rate of change in the world of LLMs today is not measured in years. It's measured in months, if not weeks sometimes. And you see it, Sonnet 4.5, Opus 4.5. Suddenly you have GPT 5.1. Now you have Grok. Now you have the next version of Anthropic. I'm sure that they're already using the next version of their models internally to build the next version afterwards, right? So we know that change is coming. It's really difficult to plan on a long-term time frame if the underlying technology is moving faster than what you can plan for. I think this goes back to what I said earlier. It's almost more important now that you build systems that can scale and can be repurposed and are modular. So as you think about our API, right? And we've gone through many different rewrites on our backend over the years. From the very first, I still remember this, I was on site with a customer. We installed, it was literally the second site ever. And I was like, here's the system. It shows you all these safety events. And the customer was like, what do you mean? Where do I see them? I was like, yeah, just log into this database and you can go and you can see all the safety events in there. Like, obviously that didn't work. And you can't let a customer log into a database to view safety events. So build a little backend and a little screen in front of it. So we went through multiple iterations, but I think now what we built is really interesting, where we try to no longer have to do backend work on the API side. The way we connect our databases and then the API, and then have a unified layer between services, users, and agents. So if you're building in the agent space, that same agent, as you're adding more schemas and tables and things on the backend, you don't have to do any backend work. Same agent can interact with it just like a user, just like a service. And that keeps it really flexible and you can move fast. And if we say we want to go deeper on quality in the next month, we can. If we want to go deeper on safety, go deeper on optimization or something else, you can. You just need to architect a system in the backend that you can move that fast, that you don't have to spend time re-architecting over and over.
To build something, like this, you got to have the right people, right? You got to have people passionate. You got to have people that are smart and capable. How did you find those people? What did you look for in them to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
The most important thing is everyone here is driven by the impact they have on the customer. We sit in a room as a team and are all hands, and we talk about companies, not just orders of magnitude, but multiple orders of magnitude larger than us, changing how they run their business because of what we do sitting in a room. And that's what needs to drive you, right? Whether you're in engineering or you're on the customer operations side, you're in sales or in marketing or anywhere else in the business, you need to be driven by the impact that you have. And I think the feeling that you get when you make something and you put it in the hands of somebody else, and they actually not just use it, but they change something because of it. I think that's the part that we all get really excited, and that's the filter. I mean, if you want to work here, that's what we look for.
This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. There's a good chance you've already tried a few AI code review tools, and you're probably ignoring most of their comments. Not because AI can't review code, but because it's missing context. Most AI reviewers focus on surface-level issues, style nits, obvious refactors, or restating what's already clear from the diff. Meanwhile, the things you actually care about, like whether a change violates an earlier architectural decision or quietly duplicates existing logic, go unnoticed. That's the problem Unblocked is built to solve. Unblocked's AI code review is grounded in decision-grade context, prior PRs, design discussions, documentation, and system-level constraints, the same context senior engineers rely on when reviewing code. Teams using Unblocked report fewer comments, higher signal, and automated reviews they actually trust, enough that many have turned off other review tools entirely. Even if you've already written off AI code review, Unblocked is worth a look. Get a free 3-week trial at getunblocked.com/codestory. That's getunblocked.com/codestory. This will be interesting, given what you're building this on and the backbone of AI and your excitement in LLMs. I'm curious about scalability, right? How did you approach scale in the beginning? Maybe later from the beginning, but how did you approach scale? And I'm curious if there's interesting areas where you had to fight it as you've been growing.
Oh, you have to fight it every day. We ingest a humongous amount of data from our customers and our sensors. Right, so think about the amount of data an AI-enabled camera sensor spits out every day. There are, and it's not an exaggeration, billions of images getting processed every single day from our system. And then from those billions of images, we try to condense it down to maybe thousands or tens of thousands of potential events, to maybe thousands of actual events, to a handful of insights that ultimately make our customers change something on a daily basis. That funnel is very difficult to build for, because you also don't know, as you add more functionality at the edge on the sensors, you might suddenly increase the amount of data you need to process quite significantly. Technically speaking, on our stack in AWS, I think it's very nice that there's a number of services out there that AWS offers that allow you to ingest vast amounts of data. But we constantly run into this when we train self-supervised vision models, and you're training them on, at first you might train them on 500,000 videos, and then you want to train them on 5 million videos, and suddenly you want to train them on 50 million videos, which, by the way, we have all that data. We just now need to figure out, is where we store it, is that in a place that we can actually use it and access it and index it and load it? You run into this every single day, but you just need to make sure you understand what's core to what the customer uses and what they pay for, and then what are data streams where maybe it's more of a strategic long-term decision to still maintain that or still capture that, still store that, because you know that at some point that data is going to be really valuable. And especially in the age of AI, you just can't make any compromises there. You have to keep all that data, because that data is what's going to be differentiated between you and everyone else in the future.
Okay, so as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built, with OneTrack in particular, what are you most proud of?
That's recency bias, but I think that the way we approach the agentic side is really unique. So Anthropic rolled out skills recently. We had skills for quite some time. The way we handle multi-agent work and work distribution, I think is really interesting. I think the way that we can repurpose this agentic harness and actually turn the entire application into something that uses it flips the concept around from trying to automate an application built by humans with agents and instead have an application built by agents used by humans. That, at least over the last 12 months as we've been working towards that, that's been fascinating to me. And I think that's something I'm very proud of from a technical side, that we were able to pull that off that quickly. It's also not that easy to just change gears on a spot while you're having an existing business and operation and product that your customers expect to continue to use, and your team, your operations team, is continuing to deploy and support and implement. And all the while, you're like building something completely new that is going to help this core product, but also is a completely different way to think about, what you need. And it's going to take resources away from that list of things that people would like to fix that, are linear or incremental changes versus that one thing that you're working on that's going to be a exponential unlock, and being able to maintain focus on that still and build it and deliver it. I think that's something that I'm very proud of that we were able to do. Certainly different today to change course than when I was just me and my drones, to go from drones to cameras.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
It's December 10, 2025. I know that 5 years ago, I think it was like the first year of COVID, right? 2020, in December. Right around this time, I found myself in a warehouse with gloves, a mask, safety goggles. The part was I was walking to 60 different forklifts, and by hand, I was opening every box. I was replugging in USB cables from cameras, and I was closing the whole thing again, under the impression that if I just plugged everything back in, they would stop pulling on the cables or cutting the cables. Where I think early on, hardware versions of OneTrack, there were a lot of mistakes and lessons learned from those mistakes. And similar to what I talked about with iterating really quickly, we iterated and moved really quickly on the hardware side too. But there were definitely a couple of decisions along the way that cost substantial pain to fix, me spending a week on site, going from lift to lift and opening boxes and plugging cables back in. Yeah, those things you definitely remember. But it's also fulfilling if you can look back and you look at all the different versions of the hardware and you see all the things we learned along the way and how we went from a giant box with hundreds of parts to a tiny box the size of a smartphone that we can assemble in 12 minutes. It's cool to see that we've come that far, but also a reminder of all the mistakes along the way.
So let's move forward then. This is one of my favorite parts of the interview. What does the future look like for OneTrack, for the product platform, and for your team?
I think a lot about the 30% of the economy that's still running on these green screens and legacy software. I think about the ERP implementations where you might spend 10 million on software and 100 million on consultants. And it's probably sometimes even more depending on the complexity. I think in the future, the world of enterprise software will look very different. And I think that OneTrack is in a very unique position to play a critical role with that, because future software shouldn't repeat the mistakes of the past. And the mistakes of the past, on the one hand, is all the cost to implement and configure and customize. On the other hand, it's lack of actual data and visibility to what truly is going on. I think the ERP of the future, or not even ERP, the enterprise software stack of the future, is going to fundamentally understand what is happening in the physical world natively, right? It has to. And it shouldn't depend on people either filling out paper and scanning it, or manually filling out forms, or going back on email threads that are 40 messages deep. That shouldn't be the future. That's not what the future should look like. And I'm really excited for OneTrack to play a critical role in bringing this new type of software that connects the physical world with the digital world, and then brings in agentic AI to automate, and not just automate back office tasks like a process you never see, but actually give you the software you really need and want to use to do what you need to do as a person doing your work as well. Moving from static applications to dynamic applications.
Let's switch to you, Marc. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to, and why.
I consume a lot of different podcasts, listen to a lot of different interviews. There are many things I pick up from other leaders. I think there's There's something to be learned from the way that, not that it works for everyone, but that Jensen Huang manages his team and his direct reports, right? Having 40 plus direct reports and just trusting them to go and run with it because they are so qualified and so skilled that you don't have to have that super structured one-on-one every week. Like you couldn't even do that with 40 direct reports. I think there's something there. And I think maybe in the future where more and more will be automated with AI internally within a company, more businesses can operate like that. I think on the flip side, do you even need 40 people? There's a number of companies out there that they've hit some pretty significant revenue numbers with very small teams. And I find that very impressive as well. And it makes me wonder, what does the company of the future look like? There's a number of advisors and mentors as well that I work with closely. One, for example, is Gordon Siegel, the founder of Crate & Barrel. It's fascinating to me to hear these stories of just building a business, right? And I think so many people miss that point. We are not VC funded. We never went out to raise venture money and go down the, hey, every 12 to 18 months, you're going to be out of money or you raise more money. And it's this like endless hamster wheel to the bottom. We're building a business. And I think there are people out there that have done that in the past that more people should look up to and learn from. And I think Gordon Siegel just shows us so well from the first store to the second store, him and his wife in the store, literally putting together the crates and barrels with the things that they wanted to sell to people. And I think it creates a different long-term perspective on what you're building. And I have a very long-term view on what I want to build with OneTrack. And this is why we're trying to position ourselves with the kinds of customers that we're working with, not just as vendors, but truly as partners. And partners on, today it's AI. I don't know what it will be tomorrow, but I want to be the first person they call when they're going down that next journey. And I think that's, to me, like that long-term view and long-term approach and mindset to business is something that I try to emulate as well.
Okay, Marc, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing, right? This is flight 101. I think you said 100 flights already this year. 101. Sitting next to an entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. And can't we show it off to you right there on the plane? What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
I think never stop and just keep iterating. You're going to run into so many walls, and entrepreneurship is not just running around walls. Sometimes it means you need to run through walls. Distinguish between there's that art essay, simple and easy, right? Two different things. Sometimes the difficult things are the most important things to solve first. And the difficult thing may be nothing that you need to build or create. It may be just being honest with yourself and the feedback that you get from others. And when I think about like early days of the drones, everyone was excited about drones. But if I had truly been honest with myself a bit earlier, it was less about winning business plan competitions and being on stage at at TechCrunch Disrupt. And I should have spent more time thinking about, assume I can solve all these technical issues. Is the problem that I'm solving significant enough to build a true business around it? And today you have so many people out there that are able to generate a lot of revenue quickly, but I don't think that revenue will stay there for the long term. And so really understand the business you're building and the why of why your customers buy what you're making, and be honest about that with yourself. And maybe that's the wall sometimes that you need to run through rather than the next thing that you want to integrate or AI algorithm you're trying to figure out.
Well, that's fantastic advice. Well, Marc, thanks for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of OneTrack.
Well, thanks for having me.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.